My name is Margaret Hale. I trusted my daughter with my home, my care, and my bank account. Then one routine statement showed $700,000 missing, and the person I raised was the one who stole it.
I've always believed that family is the one thing in this world that never betrays you. After losing my husband 5 years ago, that belief became my anchor. My daughter, Olivia, was all I had left, my only child, my closest companion, and the person I trusted with every piece of my life. When age began to slow me down, it felt natural to let her handle the details, paying bills, checking on my investments, managing the house. I thought I was giving her responsibility. In reality, I was handing her opportunity. At first, Olivia was the perfect daughter. She visited every evening after work, brought groceries, reminded me to take my medication, and even started handling my banking so I wouldn't have to worry. I remember her saying those exact words with a soft smile that felt genuine. "Mom, you don't need stress anymore. I'll take care of everything." And I believed her. Looking back, there were signs I ignored. Moments that should have made me question, like the time she brushed off a bank letter addressed to me, saying it was just a statement and didn't need opening, or when she hesitated before answering a question about an investment account I'd forgotten existed. But I didn't press her. I thought it was my memory failing, not her honesty. Our relationship had always been close. I'd raised Olivia alone after her father passed, working 2 jobs to make sure she had everything she needed. When she earned her degree and got a steady job, I felt nothing but pride. And when she insisted on managing my finances, I saw it as her way of giving back, a daughter's love in action. That trust made the betrayal cut deeper than any wound I'd ever known. But back then, in those early months, I saw no reason to doubt her. I signed whatever paper she handed me, nodded at every "don't worry about it" explanation, and allowed her deeper into the financial side of my life than anyone had ever been. I had no idea I was signing away control, not just of my money, but of my peace, my security, and eventually my faith in the person I loved most. The storm was forming quietly, and I was too blinded by love to see the clouds. The changes came so slowly that at first I barely noticed them. Olivia began visiting less often, blaming long hours at work or unexpected errands that always seemed to pop up. She still called, still checked in, but the warmth in her voice had cooled. When she did come by, she was more distracted, glued to her phone, whispering during mysterious calls, and rushing out before we could sit for tea like we used to. I told myself it was just life. People get busy, and she was an adult now, with her own responsibilities. But somewhere deep inside, I felt a faint tug. Something wasn't right. Money matters were another thing that started to shift. Olivia stopped explaining details to me, insisting that it's all under control whenever I asked about the bills or bank accounts. Once, when I questioned a large withdrawal from one of my savings accounts, she laughed it off, saying it was a routine transfer. "Mom, you worry too much," she said, giving me a quick hug. "I'm handling everything, trust me." I wanted to believe her, and I did. But doubt started to whisper louder each time I signed another document without reading it, or when a statement arrived in the mail and she took it before I could. I tried not to think about it. After all, this was Olivia, my daughter, the girl I'd carried in my arms when she was too sick to sleep, the woman I'd sacrificed everything for. She would never betray me. Yet, small cracks were forming. Friends who had seen us together for years started asking if Olivia was doing okay. My neighbor, Mrs. Ellis, once mentioned seeing her driving a brand new car. I brushed it off, thinking maybe Olivia had gotten a promotion. But when I asked her casually about it, she changed the subject so quickly it made me pause. Still, I pushed those worries aside. Love can be blinding, and mine certainly was. I clung to the belief that everything was fine, that Olivia was still the devoted daughter she had always been. But behind the smiles and reassurances, something darker was already in motion, and I was walking straight into it without even knowing it. It was a chilly autumn morning when the first undeniable red flag appeared. I had gone to the local pharmacy to pick up a prescription, something Olivia usually handled, but she'd been too busy that week. When I tried to pay with my debit card, the same one linked to my main account, the transaction was declined. At first, I assumed it was a mistake. Maybe the machine was faulty, or perhaps the bank was having a technical issue. But when I got home and logged into my online banking, something I hadn't done in months, my heart sank. The balance that had always been comfortably in the six figures was shockingly low. Several large withdrawals, thousands of dollars at a time, had been made over the past 6 months, and all of them had been done in person. My first thought wasn't suspicion, it was confusion. Maybe I'd authorized something and forgotten. Maybe Olivia had moved money into a different account for safekeeping. I called her immediately, my hands trembling. "Olivia, I just checked the bank account. There's money missing, a lot of it," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. There was a pause on the other end, just long enough to make my stomach twist. Then she spoke calmly, almost too calmly. "Oh, that? Don't worry, Mom. I moved some funds into a short-term investment account. It's earning more interest there. I was going to tell you." Her explanation sounded rehearsed, neat, convenient, and just believable enough. I wanted to ask for details, but her tone made me feel foolish for even questioning her. Of course she was taking care of things. Of course she knew what she was doing. But something shifted that day. I couldn't shake the unease that crept into my chest every time I thought about those withdrawals. I started paying more attention to the mail she intercepted, to the calls she took in hushed tones, to the new gold necklace I hadn't seen her wear before. It was still too early for me to imagine betrayal, but deep down, a tiny seed of doubt had been planted, and with each small inconsistency, it was starting to grow. Weeks passed, and that tiny seed of doubt grew into a constant ache I couldn't ignore. Every time I brought up the missing money, Olivia brushed me off with new explanations. One day it was an investment portfolio. Another day it was a joint account she had opened to simplify expenses. She even showed me a few official-looking papers filled with financial jargon I didn't understand, just to reassure me that everything was fine. But nothing about it felt fine anymore. The final push came during a visit from my financial advisor, Mr. Carlson, a man who had managed my accounts for over 2 decades. He asked to speak with me privately, something he'd never done before, and his expression was grim. "Margaret," he said gently, "I've noticed several significant transfers out of your primary savings and investment accounts. Are you aware of them?" My throat tightened. Olivia told me she was handling some investments. He sighed. "Those funds weren't transferred into investment accounts. They were wired into a personal checking account under Olivia's name." The room spun. My first instinct was denial. There must be a mistake. Maybe the bank made an error. Maybe she was setting something up for me and just hadn't explained it yet. But as Carlson slid the printed transactions across the table, reality stared back at me in cold, undeniable numbers. Over $450,000 was gone. When I confronted Olivia that night, she didn't panic or apologize. She laughed, an uneasy, brittle sound, and told me I was overreacting. She claimed the money was for my benefit, that she was restructuring my finances to make them easier to manage. But her words were shaky, her eyes shifting, her hands fidgeting in a way I'd never seen before. I wanted to believe her. I truly did. But a lifetime of maternal instinct screamed that something was very, very wrong. I began keeping copies of every bank statement I could find, hiding them in a drawer she never checked. I started calling the bank myself, asking quiet questions, and the more I uncovered, the clearer it became this wasn't a misunderstanding. It was betrayal, deliberate, calculated, and deeply personal.
Once the truth began to surface, I started noticing things I'd been blind to before. Olivia's lifestyle had changed drastically. She was wearing designer clothes, hosting dinner parties in fancy restaurants, and posting vacation photos from places I knew she couldn't afford on her salary alone. Every time I asked about it, she had a different story. A bonus from work, a promotion, a gift from a friend. And every time, I swallowed the lie because the alternative, that my daughter was stealing from me, was too painful to accept. But the lies started to pile up. One afternoon, I received a letter from a property company addressed to both of us. It mentioned a down payment made on a luxury apartment, and my name was listed as a co-signer. My hands shook as I read the amount. Nearly $200,000. My money. My signature. And I had no memory of signing anything. That night, I confronted Olivia again, this time with the letter in my hand. "Tell me the truth," I demanded, my voice trembling. "Did you use my money for this apartment?" She rolled her eyes, as if I were being dramatic. "Mom, it's just a temporary investment. We'll make a profit and you'll thank me later." "Without my permission?" I snapped. "Without even telling me?" Her expression hardened, the warmth and affection gone. "You wouldn't understand. You're old-fashioned about money. I'm doing what's best for both of us." For the first time, I saw someone I didn't recognize standing in front of me. Someone cold, entitled, and utterly unapologetic. The girl I had raised, the woman I had trusted with everything, was gone. That night, I barely slept. My thoughts spun in circles. Should I confront her again? Should I go to the police? Should I hire a lawyer? Every option felt impossible. This was my daughter, the same daughter whose scraped knees I had kissed, whose nightmares I had soothed. But love alone couldn't protect me anymore. If I didn't act soon, there would be nothing left to save. Not my savings, not my home, and certainly not the remnants of the trust she had already shattered. After that night, I realized I couldn't rely on Olivia's words anymore. I needed hard evidence. Every instinct told me that if I confronted her again without proof, she'd just twist the truth, gaslight me, and make me doubt myself all over again. So for the first time in my life, I started keeping secrets from my own daughter. I opened a new email account and contacted my bank directly, requesting complete statements from the last 2 years. I visited the branch in person, too, speaking quietly with a manager I trusted. The numbers that came back left me shaken. Over $700,000 had vanished from various accounts, some through withdrawals, some through forged checks, others via online transfers I had never authorized. And every single one of those transactions traced back to Olivia. I hired a financial investigator, a retired fraud specialist recommended by a friend, to review the documents. He confirmed my worst fears. Not only had Olivia stolen the money, but she had also forged my signature on several legal documents, including the property purchase I'd discovered. He even found evidence that she had changed my account settings to forward emails and statements directly to her. It was a carefully orchestrated scheme, and I had been the perfect victim. Trusting, naive, blind. The investigator advised me to stay calm and gather more evidence before taking legal action, so I continued playing my part, pretending everything was normal, smiling during dinners, agreeing to her plans, even thanking her for handling things. Every word tasted bitter, but I knew I had to be patient. Meanwhile, I made copies of every bank statement, every forged document,
every email she'd tampered with. I stored them in a locked box at Mrs. Ellis's house next door, a precaution in case Olivia tried to destroy anything. The hardest part was pretending nothing had changed. Each time she hugged me, I felt a mix of heartbreak and rage. Each "I love you" sounded emptier than the last. But I reminded myself of one thing. This wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about justice. And this time, I would be the one setting the trap. Weeks of pretending had worn me down. I had gathered everything. Every statement, every forged document, every lie wrapped neatly in Olivia's handwriting. And still, part of me hoped she'd stop before it went too far. But she didn't. In fact, she got bolder. One evening, she casually mentioned she was considering selling the house to fund a new business idea. My house. The home I had built with her father, filled with decades of memories. That was the moment I knew there was no going back. I arranged a meeting at my lawyer's office and invited Olivia, telling her it was about estate planning. She walked in confidently, dressed in designer clothes bought with my stolen money, and sat across from me with that same easy smile she always wore when she thought she was in control. "Mom, what's this about?" she asked lightly. I looked her straight in the eyes and slid a thick folder across the table. Inside were copies of everything: the bank records, the forged signatures, the wire transfers, even the property deed with my falsified consent. "What's this?" she laughed nervously. "It's proof," I said quietly, my voice steadier than I felt. "Proof that you stole from me. Proof that you lied. Proof that you betrayed every ounce of trust I ever gave you." Her face paled, and for the first time, she didn't have a ready excuse. "Mom, it's not what it looks like." I interrupted. "It's exactly what it looks like. You took my money, you forged my name, you tried to steal my home, and now you're going to face the consequences." The lawyer spoke next, outlining the potential legal charges: fraud, forgery, financial abuse of an elder. Olivia's confident mask crumbled completely. She begged, pleaded, even cried, insisting she could fix everything if I just gave her another chance. But I had given her every chance, and she had chosen greed every single time. For the first time in years, I felt something stronger than fear: resolve. I told her calmly that unless she returned every penny and relinquished control over my accounts immediately, I would press charges. And I meant it. Olivia didn't believe I would actually go through with it. Not at first. She thought her tears and promises would soften me like they always had. But this time, something inside me had changed. I wasn't the same woman who ignored red flags or made excuses for her daughter's behavior. I was someone who had been betrayed, lied to, and robbed, and I was done being a victim. Within a week, my lawyer filed an official complaint. The authorities opened an investigation, and soon Olivia's entire scheme began to unravel. Bank officials confirmed the forged signatures. Investigators traced the stolen funds directly to her personal accounts. Even the property company testified that she had used my name without my knowledge or consent. The evidence was overwhelming. When officers arrived to question her, she broke down completely. Gone was the confident, entitled woman who had laughed at my concerns. In her place was someone desperate, terrified, and full of regret. She begged me to withdraw the charges, promised to repay everything, swore that she had only wanted to secure our future. But her words rang hollow. The future she had planned was built on betrayal. The legal process was long and painful. I had to testify, relive every humiliating detail, and sit through hearings that felt like open wounds. But with every step, I grew stronger. I wasn't just fighting for my money anymore. I was fighting for my dignity, my peace, and the boundaries I should have set long ago. In the end, the court ruled in my favor. Most of the stolen money was recovered and returned,
and Olivia was ordered into a financial restitution program, along with strict legal consequences. Our relationship was fractured, perhaps beyond repair, but I had reclaimed something far more important than her approval. I reclaimed myself. Today, I live quietly, surrounded by memories of a life I built through hard work and sacrifice. I still think about Olivia, about the little girl she once was, and the choices that led her here. It's a heartbreak I'll carry forever, but I also carry something else. The knowledge that even in the face of betrayal, it's never too late to stand up for yourself and demand the respect you deserve.